Poem 02. Keeping Quiet. By Pablo Neruda. CBSE Class 12 English Core Flamingo. Dear students, this is meant to serve as a quick review of the text and should not be considered a substitute for the hours spent on thorough and repeated learning. About the poet. Pablo Neruda, 1904 to 1973, is the pen name of Neftali Ricardo Rice Basolto, who was born in the town of Parral in Chile. Neruda's poems are full of easily understood images which make them no less beautiful. He won the Nobel Prize for Literature in the year 1971. About the poem. In this poem, Neruda discusses the necessity of quiet introspection and the creation of a feeling of mutual understanding among humans. Listen to the poem Keeping Quiet. Now we will count to 12. And we will all keep still. For once on the face of the earth. Let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second. And not move our arms so much. It would be an exotic moment. Without rush, without engines. We would all be together. In a sudden strangeness. Fishermen in the cold sea. Would not harm whales. And the man gathering salt. Would look at his hurt hands. Those who prepare green wars. Wars with gas, wars with fire. Victory with no survivors. Would put on clean clothes. And walk about with their brothers. In the shade, doing nothing. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. If we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving, and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Perhaps the earth can teach us, as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now I'll count up to 12. And you keep quiet and I will go. Summary of Keeping Quiet. Pablo Neruda's Keeping Quiet envisions a transformative moment of global silence and stillness, urging humanity to pause its relentless rush of speech, movement, and mechanized activity. By proposing a collective breath, counting to 12 and halting all action, the poem imagines a world where violence and exploitation cease, fishermen would spare whales, laborers might tend to their wounds, and warmongers, abandoning plans for green wars and destruction, would instead walk peacefully alongside others. Neruda clarifies that this stillness is not passive resignation but a deliberate interruption of humanity's self-destructive cycles, offering space to confront the sadness of misunderstanding ourselves and perpetuating threats of death. Drawing parallels to Earth's natural rhythms, where lifelessness, like winter, precedes renewal, the poem suggests that such a pause could spark introspection and healing. It ends on a quietly hopeful note, with the speaker stepping back after initiating the count, leaving readers to carry forward the potential for unity, empathy, and rebirth born from shared silence. Important phrases and their meanings. Count to 12. Symbolize a brief, deliberate pause to interrupt routine chaos, a moment of collective mindfulness. Keep still. Stopping all physical and mental agitation to foster introspection and unity. Not speak in any language. Transcending linguistic cultural divides to connect through shared silence. Exotic moment. A rare, almost surreal experience of global stillness, free from the noise of modern life. Without rush, without engines. Critique of industrialization, and humanity's obsession with speed and productivity. Sudden strangeness. The unfamiliar but transformative peace that arises when habitual destruction ceases. Harm whales, hurt hands, represents environmental exploitation and human suffering caused by relentless labor. Green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire. Metaphors for ecological destruction, chemical warfare, and violent conflict. Important phrases and their meanings. Victory with no survivors. Ironic condemnation of war's futility, where winning annihilates all. Put on clean clothes. Shading violence, guilt, embracing purity and brotherhood. Huge silence might interrupt this sadness. Silence as a tool to disrupt cycles of existential despair and self-destruction. Threatening ourselves with death. Humanity's role in perpetuating existential risks, war, environmental collapse. Earth can teach us. Nature's wisdom in cycles of dormancy and rebirth, example, winter to spring, as a model for human renewal. Everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Hope that apparent stillness or death can lead to regeneration. I will go. The speaker's withdrawal, urging readers to internalize the poem's message independently. To have no truck with. To refuse to associate or deal with, to refuse to tolerate something. Poetic devices used in the poem. Free verse. The poem lacks a strict rhyme scheme or meter, reflecting the organic, unstructured nature of the proposed pause and Neruda's conversational tone. Example, the irregular line lengths and lack of rhyme mirror the unpredictability of human behavior and the poem's call for spontaneity. Repetition. Repeated phrases emphasize key ideas and create a meditative rhythm. Example, let's not speak, wars with gas, wars with fire, and count to 12 reinforce themes of silence, destruction, and collective action. Imagery. Vivid sensory details evoke a world transformed by stillness. Example, fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales paints a picture of halted exploitation, while hurt hands symbolize physical and emotional labor. Poetic devices used in the poem continued. Symbolism. Objects and actions represent abstract ideas. Example, counting to 12, a symbolic ritual to unify humanity. Clean clothes, purity and renewal after shading violence. Earth's cycles, dormancy, winter, as a metaphor for human potential to regenerate. Metaphor. Indirect comparisons deepen thematic resonance. Example, green wars equates environmental destruction to warfare. Victory with no survivors critiques the futility of war. Personification. The earth is given human-like qualities to convey wisdom. Example, perhaps the earth can teach us frames nature as a guiding force. Poetic devices used in the poem continued. Juxtaposition. Contrasting ideas highlight tension between chaos and calm. Example, rush, without engines versus sudden strangeness, contrasts industrial noise with airy stillness. Anaphora. Repetition of a word phrase at the start of lines for emphasis. Example, let's not speak in any language, let's stop for 1 second stresses collective action. Irony. Highlights contradictions in human behavior. Example, victory with no survivors underscores the absurdity of war's goals. Rhetorical question. Provokes reflection without expecting an answer. Example, though implicit, the poem's plea, what I want should not be confused with total inactivity, challenges readers to redefine productivity. Answers to think it out questions. Question 1. What will counting up to 12 and keeping still help us achieve? Answer. Counting to 12 and keeping still allows humanity to collectively pause destructive routines, violence, environmental exploitation, and war and fosters introspection. This silence interrupts the chaos of modern life, creating unity through shared reflection. By halting speech and movement, people confront their role in perpetuating harm, enabling empathy and a reset toward peace. Question 2. Do you think the poet advocates total inactivity and death? Answer. Neruda does not advocate inactivity or death. He distinguishes between passive resignation and purposeful stillness. The pause is a conscious act to disrupt destructive cycles, not an end in itself. Quietude here is a catalyst for understanding, not death's embrace. It seeks to preserve life by challenging mindless productivity and violence. Question 3. What is the sadness that the poet refers to in the poem? Answer. The sadness arises from humanity's failure to comprehend itself, leading to self-destructive behaviors like war and ecological harm. It reflects existential alienation, an inability to connect meaningfully with others or recognize the consequences of greed and aggression. Question 4. What symbol from nature does the poet invoke to say that there can be life under apparent stillness? Answer. The poet invokes Earth's seasonal cycles, particularly winter's dormancy, as a symbol. Though lifeless on the surface, winter precedes spring's renewal. Similarly, apparent stillness in humans, silence, reflection, holds potential for regeneration, mirroring nature's resilience and capacity for rebirth after stagnation.
Thank you for watching this video. Like and subscribe to our channel for more content like this.